Good morning. This is the Blaine's World webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You get more information about previous shows, past shows, future shows at our website, which is behind me, blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the nation. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce kind of a longtime friend of mine, and he is Aaron Wesley Means, owner and CEO of Activate Business Solutions. Aaron, thanks for being my guest today. What I'd like you to do is wave to all your fans and friends who are watching. So give a big
Hey, Blaine, thank you for having me. Hello, everybody.
okay. And Aaron, I should tell you, is a marketing specialist who's helped me out over the years and CEO at Activate Business Solutions, which serves the Carolinas and the nations. He has a BA in communications from Arizona State University, and he's trained thousands of businesses through seminars, webinars, and conferences while delivering a full suite of custom marketing services and solutions for businesses and organizations of all sizes and shapes. And Aaron, the first question I always ask when I have somebody on, or you in case I've had you on in the past, as a kid, you grew up where?
I grew up in Germany, actually. I was born here, and then we lived in Germany for my early formative years. We were stationed over there, military family traveling around. And then we came back stateside around halfway through elementary school. And I lived in the Washington, D.C. area, Tennessee, and then back to D.C. Eventually, I ended up back with my family roots are, and that's right here in North Carolina. That's how I met you.
And when you were growing up as a kid, did you always know you wanted to be head of your own company?
No, I had no interest, no thought of the concept. And when other people said they wanted to work for themselves, I always thought, yeah, okay, pipe dream. So not really at all.
So how did you come to the conclusion that you did want to work for your own yourself or you wanted to own your own company? How'd that come about?
I think it was that I went and did the college thing, and then I started trying out different positions. I worked in corporate, I worked in service, and I just felt restless and like it wasn't a fit. And at the same time, the internet got its legs. This is around '05 to '08, and Google and everything with Facebook, social was blowing up. And I just thought, I wanted to be an entrepreneur and sort of make my own way. And the internet just seemed like the obvious place to do that. So for a number of years, I explored different ways to make money and used the internet and learned about it and got a little bit of traction. Got a little bit of traction, and then I said, "Well, what am I doing sitting here in my boxers in this little townhouse on the concrete jungle of Washington, D.C. when I don't have to be here anymore?" And the rest is history. And that's how I got down here.
So when you started activating, I guess I met you probably a few years after that. I think we must have met 2010, 2011, sometime around that period of time. But you just kind of amazed me that you're working with businesses, but not in a typical way. In other words, explain a little bit about what you do in terms of when you're working with a business. What's your role?
Yeah, sure. So I started out really as a marketing consultant. And that was because, funny story, my wife worked in legal and she hung that up when we left to DC and ran for the hills of Asheville 16 years ago. And she became a dog groomer. She's always liked animals more than people. Somehow I made the cut, I guess. And after being down here in little old Brevard, we're about an hour from Asheville. We're down here. I said, start your own business. What, come on. And after a while, she eventually gave in, said, yeah. And then I was real excited for about 30 seconds till I realized that someone was going to have to do all of the other parts of the business besides the dog magic. And so here I am from DC to Brevard, 5,000 people. I just started a brick and mortar service-based business. What have I done? And even as a marketer and an internet marketer, a service-based small business, this is a different environment. How do you build a list? How do you use social media, which was just trending into business at that time? And so I went to my chamber, I went to Small Business Center. I started going to different seminars and getting a feel for what kind of strategy, what's the best software. And I had to, as a marketer, sort of bootstrap it and figure out a lot of the stuff about the small business world on the fly. And really, Blaine, that's where Activate started. Is enough people around me at these different events, they still needed help. They said, a lot of them said, okay, I understand everything now and I still don't want to do it. you know so that's how I actually began Activate as a company. I didn't really plan on that. It was just an answer to answer the need.
Let me ask you, even in terms of your knowledge. So you'd gone to school as an undergraduate, you were a marketing major, were you?
Communication.
Communications. How do you pick up all these skills though? So in other words, when you took it, you said the internet was just starting. Did you, and this was, I guess, even before I believe it, YouTube became popular. So you couldn't look at YouTube videos. How do you pick up the skills?
Truthfully, it was just spending a tremendous amount of time looking at the screen. There was nothing really translates from my degree, which was way too long ago, into the internet world. However, it did help to understand communication styles as an overarching theme. That's helped greatly to understand how to communicate in marketing. The rest of it really was just a tremendous amount of looking at how to's, reading, modeling after, learning, going to seminars, going to conferences, huddling up with colleagues. And, we're probably going to mention this, but constant contact became a big center of the business partnership here in Western North Carolina. And we're working with chambers and the SBC. And so I learned a lot as a marketer and as a small business owner myself. I learned a lot by partnering with Constant Contact, how to scale up, how to reach more people. And that's been a great resource to me since the very first year I started Activate.
And since you mentioned Constant Contact, I'd like to also kind of give a shout out to them because I think it's a great organization. And I'm trying to think, but that's probably how I met you. Somehow, almost what you said word for word. I'd gone to a Constant Contact seminar or something. You may have even been the speaker. And I said to myself, Self, this is good stuff, but I need help. I need, I don't want to do all the stuff myself. And I think that's where you came into play when I started getting constant contact the first time. And again, I think I must have heard you at a seminar. I said, this guy has good stuff, but I didn't want to do all that stuff myself. So explain your role into it. How do you come into play?
So now at this point, years and years later, gosh, 12, 13 years later, Activate has evolved into a marketing services company. So, we, one leg of the business is teaching and training. I work with the Small Business Center Network. I work with Chambers of Commerce Network. I go to conferences. I speak to small business and nonprofit and teach them best practices and stuff that's really applicable, not just a bunch of PowerPoint, but actually what they can go back and do there. Then one other leg of the business is we actually do marketing for a couple handfuls of companies, and that's everything from email to social to paid ads to website management. Then the third leg, because you can't have just two legs, that'd be too logical. The third leg is projects and consulting. We do website builds, we work with e-commerce, we do branding from the ground up, project work, and consulting. A lot of times we have, more than we can handle, and which is a good thing. So, we may not be able to help everyone, but we can consult as a starting point and get them set up for success and kind of open the door to that conversation. So that's really the gamut of what Activate has become over the past 12 years.
And by the way, that's I think the very first seminar I attended that you ran, and I've attended a bunch of them, but it was this best practices seminar. And who would think there were best practices that you had to learn? But I'm telling you, Aaron, I remember it like it was yesterday. I'm taking note after note. I'm saying, and rather than just listen to you, I just wanted to get all the stuff. And since you mentioned it, off the top of your head, give an example of a best practice you would talk about. Best practice in email marketing or best practice in using your mailing list. Give me an example.
I would say think about how you can provide value to people as the number one goal, and then your marketing will be successful. Most of the time, we tend to get online and start using offline methods, pushy sales, repeated sales attempts, and not having that authentic shine. The other thing I would suggest is when you're emailing your list, think about your subject line
That's
because it doesn't
okay.
matter how great your email is if nobody opens it. It's just a beautiful island out in the middle of the ocean.
Well, talk about something else you taught me, and you teach others as well. In terms of the subject line, it's also important to test your subject line or test what's working. Explain what that involves.
Yeah, and that's a greater practice across most of your marketing. I'm glad you brought that up. Split testing means using a variety of approaches and then looking at the results to see which one is the better idea. And that might mean you come up with a few different subject line ideas. And any good platform these days should have an option in it. Constant Contact, of course, does for you to put a split test subject line, and it will deliver this to the list 50-50, 60-40, whatever you say, and it tells you the results. And this is part of a larger topic that we'll get to, I'm sure, because we can't not, which is AI. And that's how much smarter and faster and better the system is at helping us get better at marketing.
And before we get to that, I'll just mention the example, and again, you helped me with this as well, is that I was using Constant Contact for a long time, but I found out if you just use the subject FYI, it's not such a good subject line, because you're giving information, but people want to know more, what's the information they're getting. Let me ask you this question, Aaron. I tell people this too. How important is in the subject line to have your company's name or your name in the subject line itself? People say, well, it's on the email address, but sometimes all I see is subject line. Is that a good idea to include more information about who you are?
I think that's pretty valuable real estate. So if you properly have the from line set up to show who you want it to show, and by the way, that doesn't mean the owner or the office. It could mean the name of the person that everyone's used to hearing from. It could be the team leader. It could be the manager,
Right,
whoever it makes most sense for your list. So I would have, if you have that crystal clear, I would use the subject line to instead maybe put their name in it,
right.
the subject line that has a first name that fills, or a nice eye-catching customized kickoff is probably a better use of the subject line than restating your own company name.
And on the subject line, how many words do you have in that subject line to effectively capture somebody's interest?
This varies, and I've heard a lot of different suggestions, 4 to 14 words, 4 to 8 words. What's interesting though is, do you know about the pre-header text?
I
The
don't use
pre-header
it.
text,
Explain that. Yeah,
yeah, it's so if you open up your phone and you look at the preview pane of your email inbox, just the preview pane,
right,
all the messages that are waiting for you to click or ignore. In this order, you've got from, subject line,
right.
and then you've got 2 to 3 lines, depending on the size of your phone, 2 to 3 lines of extra text under the subject line. Typically, an email builder will slurp that information up from the top of your email. Just whatever the top of your email is what gets put in there. However, you can build that. You can actually customize the entire pre-header text. So that's 2 to 3 more lines in addition to the subject line that you have total control over. And this means you can do this whole little marketing game right in the preview pane before they ever even get to the email. Subject line and pre-header line together gives you anywhere from 2 to 4 full sentences to play with.
By the way, again, giving a shout out to Aaron, he is in constant contact, and that was not the reason I asked you to be the guest, but I will give it that this is the kind of thing where you can help people with. In other words, if somebody says they don't want to be concerned with the pre-header or the subject line or anything like that, that's where you come into play.
Yeah, I definitely help certain clients by just executing the marketing, drafting the ideas, getting it underway. Some clients want to do that and have me look at it for them. It goes both ways. So there's a full we do the full service marketing, do the email, execute the email, uh, across all channels, social, web. We do the actual hands-on marketing. But then there's plenty of clients that, my role is to be their coach and their guide and their guardrails so that they can get better and make it easier on them.
Now, since you mentioned it, Aaron, I'd like you to talk a little bit about AI because I've been obviously playing with it as well as everybody else. How is that changing the whole industry?
It's really changing it drastically. Um, in one way, it is changing it a lot. In another way, I think the fear of the change was probably a little overblown. So the way it's changing it is it's making a lot of a lot of the administrative tasks as well as the creative tasks faster and easier for marketers. And so that really comes down to coming up with a better or more interesting way to present written copy, alternative ways to write a blog, how to generate the content for an email announcement or invite in a few different ways. Uh, Also, automating is a huge thing. Smart AI automation. This means not everybody in your database necessarily needs to get all the same marketing. In fact, that's quite ineffective. If you have parts of your database getting marketing that's tailored to them based on triggers or conditions, that's a very smart tactical approach. Can automate based on triggers you set up that are important to your business. People are getting very personalized, customized emails automatically. You do the work up front and then you set it and let it rock and roll. And so that is improving the quality of people's marketing experience as well. But speaking just the other side of the coin, getting out of my world, how is AI changing the way small business and nonprofits can market? And I would say it's equally exciting for them, because Blaine, there's after 12, 13 years speaking to thousands of people, all the times people come up afterwards or they stay on a webinar or they email me. It's very similar comments. And it comes down to they have two pain points: no time and need to get organized, get systemized, and stick with it. And then the second pain point is the creative side. So we, as small business and nonprofit, we agreed to this digital thing before we knew what we were biting into. Okay, I'll have a website.
Right.
Okay, no traffic. Okay, email list. Okay, email. Oh, what's the social media now? Okay, now I'll do social media. Okay, now we're on mobile. Everything needs to be redone mobile. Okay, I'll do that. Now you have to be on video. You have to be a video, a personality. Now you have to be likable and you have to be creative. And it's, for God's sake, only about 2 out of 10 people, I guesstimate, are creative on demand. Okay. Most of us have personality traits that lead our lives. We have other strengths. Okay. So the small business and nonprofit, we're sitting there, in this cone of frustration going, I'm supposed to just create all this great content all the time. How about I do the thing, my business that I'm good at? And this is where AI relieves that pain. The content generators, the content creators, the editors, and allowing a small business to say, okay, I'm not creative. I don't need to worry about that. I need to decide, what do I want to market, and work with a content generator to get that idea rolling. Give me 2 or 3 ideas. Let me use that material, because then boom, they've got momentum, they've got some ideas. It becomes so much faster and easier. It's extremely exciting for them as well as, obviously marketing companies.
One of the things, Aaron, I've started to use it for also, and it's made my life easier, is to help me proofread stuff, and for example, my wife now writes a column for my blog, and she writes it, drafts it, and she wants her thoughts to be there, but she puts it through AI, and boy, does it become better. All she does, and it's very polite in the way of doing it, Aaron. It says she'll just say proof the following, and they'll proof it within 2 seconds. And they always compliment her. They say, you did a very good job, very powerful what you're saying, but consider the following. And they're very nice about it. So I just think what a relief that is for me. I don't have to proof stuff as much as I did before, and they do, frankly, a better job than I do at times. So I
Yeah,
just,
we don't have to be perfect. We can give our best shot and leverage the general consciousness that's contributing towards building this stuff to make ourselves better. And by the way, Blaine, any chance your wife told the robot to tell you how good it was?
I'll have to, off the air, I'll tell you
A
some.
special prompt.
But yeah, that would be good, or she doesn't have to know that, but say it's a great piece. Back to what you were saying too, you can also use it to help generate subject lines. Because sometimes, Aaron, I'll say, and here's a key you probably use as well. Don't just ask for one. I say, please give me, and you shouldn't use the word, explain why not. You shouldn't use the word please in there. I thought it was being rude to AI, but it's just the less stuff you put in there, the better results you're going to get. Is that true? You shouldn't say please.
To an extent, the better results. Instead of that, you can say, very direct, give me this, use this tone.
Right.
As far as like, for instance, within Constant Contact's platform, we'll go back to that. There's an AI widget in the email builder. So I can now say, and this is one of the demos that I do a lot. I'll say, here's a little bit of information about an upcoming event we need to promote for this real estate company, this Rookie of the Year award. So we just put that little blurb in and we tell the tone, because the tone is important, informative, enthusiastic, whatever. So then it spits out an idea and you can choose an edit or re-prompt to start over. So it's now building out whole chunks of content ideas that you can spin with and run with. And all you're telling it is just this bare. Same with social media. I gotta say, it's more exciting for the social media because this is the stuff we have to do more often. So it hurts worse, right? We got to stop what we're doing. We got to make sure we're doing social every other day. And we sometimes don't have that creative juice. So to come in there and say, here's what I need to post about, and it gives you 3 ideas at a time,
Well,
including little hashtags. So really amazing shortcuts these days.
Aaron, not just three. Oftentimes you said like on social media, I'll say, give me 10 comments to introduce my meme, and it gives me 10. And then it says, do you want 10 more? Do you want 10 more after that? But it's just incredible because, yeah, it has made life easier. So with respect to social media, times do change. Um, if folks aren't new to this, Aaron, let me ask you this question. So if somebody comes to one of your seminars and they've never, and you really take it from soup to nuts, which is so cool. If they've never done any of this, what do you tell them to start doing? There's small business, and you mentioned
Mm.
there's social media, there's email, there's print ads, you name it. There's a lot of stuff. What's the very first thing you start thinking about?
Number one thing is start building your list.
Okay, and talk.
Almost even before having a website, in some cases. And it's all about the list, okay? Because the whole internet boils down into 3 buckets. There's websites and apps. There's social engagement channels that are back and forth engagement. And then there's inboxes. And as crazy as the internet is, that's the whole darn internet, 3 buckets. So it comes down to where are people going to see you the most when you make an effort? Social media is incredible and irreplaceable, but we're dancing in someone else's ballroom there. I mean, this is an algorithm. You don't get seen as much as you'd like to. So for a small business or a nonprofit just getting started, you got to understand from day one, your email list gives you the 95% deliverability and visibility. Okay. So if you're going to start making your effort towards marketing footprint, start with building the list no matter what. You can build it online, you can build it offline, you can build it through QR codes, you can build it through eventually when you have a website, which is what I would do next. I would put together a very basic website, even if it's a one pager. And I would have a spot there talking about what you do, why it matters, why it's different, and not just a lot of this is the second mistake we make. We go right to the buy now, buy now, buy now, buy now, buy now. And we have to understand that people go to websites and no matter how interested they are, the average person does not buy now. They buy later. So we need to build the list from our website subscribers. This is our lead, our prospect pool, and our lead generator. Social media, incredible and irreplaceable, but I think too many people go there first because it's the shiny ball and you hear these incredible success stories and we think we got to use social media because everyone's doing it. And this creates a tremendous amount of pain. The algorithm doesn't show us anywhere close to the number of views we want to get. In the beginning, it's slower than ever. So I would use it in that order. Build your list, get your website done, and then pick a social channel and get good at it. And that's where I would focus my energy. A couple of pieces of content a week, put it out on social every week or two, or maybe once a month to start. Send out a single email to your list and just get those things going and don't worry about anything else.
Talk about, though you mentioned the list, if you're new or even if you're established, how do you go about getting the list off the ground? And more importantly, how do you go about growing the list?
Yeah, so definitely I would stay away from purchasing data. This is a, you know, this is a rabbit hole within a rabbit hole. It's usually a waste of money, and also, it's generally not FCC compliant if you use it incorrectly. So what we want to do is build a permission-based list. This would be people coming to trade shows, scanning a QR code that opens to a forum they can join your list, people doing business with you, people coming into your place of business, people handing you business cards, coming to your website, filling out a sign-up form to opt in. Now, why would they join your list is the question. Why? There's generally three reasons. Number one is a discount or a promotion. So, 20% off your first purchase or buy one, get one. The second is access to very valuable content. This is an important one because a lot of small business and nonprofit go, I don't have an e-commerce thing. I don't have a percent thing. I don't have a thing that I can plug in there. And so the number two is really important, access to valuable content. It's not about the dollars, it's about the perceived value. So, if you're looking at a company that restores cars, here is a guide to X, Y, and Z with some videos, and it's giving you a taste of their specialty. Access to that as like an appetizer version. The third reason is to make a difference. Generally, this goes mostly with nonprofits. Although, if you really love a company, you think it's making a difference, you can give more money. But mostly, it's nonprofits. Tugging at your heartstrings. You want to be a part of it. You want to stay in touch. So, opting in for that. So, those are the three reasons. But I will say this again for the third time: the number one mistake we make when we start building that list is we start selling. And this is a big wet blanket over the whole thing. With small business and nonprofit specifically, we have to build the list in a way that people are opting in, they're getting what they asked for right away, they feel happy. Then they're getting another email later with some more value. Then another email with some more fun and intrigue. Not buy now, buy now, buy now, buy now, which really just kills the whole party. Now, what's interesting too is the result is you get the sales. It's just not in a very linear fashion that we sometimes imagine.
If I send out an email, it's a generalized question, but what's a ballpark answer, percentage rate that I should get about people who open the email? And again, one of the great things about constant contact is I can see that, which is great. Um, what should be the percentage rate I should be getting?
If you're getting 30% or up, you've got a good handle. You've got a good handle, 30% or up. It's about the national average ish. It's hard to know with preview pane that sometimes opens an email with the person not viewing it. It just loads the email and that counts. It's harder to know these days what the real open rate is, which is why we look at click rate too, okay, which is really the thing behind the thing. Who cares if anyone opens your email? You want them to do something. So if they're going to click it, read, open, engage, scroll, make it take action, I think that part of the report is important too. Click rate 10%, 20% is really a nice handle on your stats. I will make a plug here for AI again. There's a feature that just blows my mind. It's called automatic resend to non-openers. So I've got clients that had a list in 2013 with 50% open rate. Well, as the advent of mobile took over the world and the increased number of emails, the data dump crushing through the inbox, you've got people that are missing emails that they want to get. They're on a list. They like the emails, but all of a sudden, 2 hours later, it's on page two and it's, history. And so automatic resend to non-openers is an AI feature that says, if at this date, at this time, resend this email with the same subject line or different, you can customize it. And to just the people that did not open it the first time this email went out. So usually, I do like 4 days maybe. And it increases the open rate 8 or 9 more% because those people that didn't open it the first time, it wasn't that they didn't want the email. It was that this is 2025. So 8 or 9% more. So even clients that went from 50% to 40 to 30 to 20, now they're at 30. Now they're back getting up towards 40 with this nice AI, automation stuff.
Let me ask you this, because one of the nice things I like about Constant Contact is they enable me to do that also. I can send out my mailing, and then 5 days later, I can send out people that nerve of them don't respond to my mailing or don't open it. Um, do you recommend that not only me, but other people do this every week, or just do it when their open rate is low? Is it like overkill if I'm doing it every week to send them that notice?
It might be overkill because the cadence of how often you're speaking to them matters. Let's say somebody missed your first email of the month.
Right.
Then they get the automatic resend. They click it, and 2 days later, here's your new edition. Now, you
Right.
didn't actually send more emails to them, but the perception and the experience is this is a little much. So, for businesses that do a monthly newsletter, definitely. Every few weeks, sure. An important campaign, definitely a sales seasonal campaign. But for maybe someone that's already emailing weekly, I'd pick and choose on this.
And your point is spot on, because the few times I've done that, inevitably somebody will say they're unsubscribing because they get too many emails. And the reality is they don't get too many emails. I send out once a week, but because the perception, if I send that Thursday and they get another one on Saturday, too many emails. So
That's right. Well, they get too many emails, but they're not from you.
exactly. Always. What about the fact too, that if people don't want on your mailing list, let me ask you just a couple of final bits of advice.
Yeah.
Is it ever okay to go after them and find out why they don't want your email, or to try to get them back on your mailing list? Can that ever work?
If you're very witty about it and self
Like it.
aggrandizing, you can do something like, why did we break up? I want your feedback. Or why did we break up? If it's not you, I know it's me.
Okay,
Um,
I love it.
but generally, I would not. I should have started with that. I wouldn't if people are unsubscribing and leaving your list. Okay, there's a variety of reasons, and in our mind, we think it's us, but about 50% of the time, it's actually them. It's their life, their chaos, their inbox chaos. Sometimes they're slashing and burning and they're cutting lists and they're not even, internalizing that they might want that content later. So the great thing is if you use a good system, it keeps track
Right.
of their unsubscribe and it leaves them in a little side burner position. that means that they can come back to your list. They can resubscribe, they can say yes, they can click the link, and they can come back. And I know I have noticed people do that over the years. They'll a bunch of people will leave the list, and I thought, wow, they seem to be enjoying it before that. And then 8 or 9 months later, here comes a resubscribe, and it was really probably not about the content, probably about other things. So if somebody says I'm good for now, I think pursuing them might potentially make them back up further. So only do it in a fun way if maybe you're someone at the cafe or the diner and you already know them.
Last question, and I do the same thing too. If somebody gets on your list, subscribes to your email, do you recommend sending them a thank you note or acknowledging that fact?
100%. One of the best things you can do is set up what's called the welcome email.
Okay.
And this means when someone joins your list, here comes an automatic email that you've built ahead of time and preset, and it's in the chamber. And this is again the automated automation, and it delivers to them. If they just join your list in a general way, it sends them a thank you so much for joining our list. We really appreciate you. Here's what you can expect. So it treats them differently. This sets you apart from a lot of different lists that you join their list and then 69 days later you get the first newsletter and who is this? I don't remember joining this list. The second thing too, Blaine, is just dial this in. If somebody comes to your website and says, I'm interested in plans for building a new log cabin, and then you have a download your video to getting started free guide PDF, and they opt in for that, the welcome email and the value proposition are together. You've got a double punch right there. So in all cases, definitely the moment that email hits the account, you want an automatic uh, responder going out to them, acknowledging that statement that they made. They want to join your list, providing them value. And this creates the best rapport possible because it really delineates in the time. This is they joined your list. They put their email in. Here's the time and date. You're now responding with that. And it creates a different sense to it versus, again, so many businesses, oh, join this forum and then, crickets. And then when it's time for them to get some sales campaigns going, they start hammering the list and the list feels disoriented and murky. And how long ago did I join this? And so for sure, a welcome email is critical.
And one of the nice things, again, it sounds like a commercial with Constant Contact, but that wasn't the intent. But Constant Contact enables you to do this very easily. It just automates it for you. You just say you want to send out a letter, Aaron, as opposed to having to type up separate emails, to everybody who joins whenever they join. It can be a real pain in the neck. Aaron, if folks want to do a couple things. One, if they want to find out more about Activate, what's the best bet?
They can go to helpwithmarketing.com.
Okay. And
Helpwithmarketing.com is a nice, easy forward that goes to my company site, and there's a contact form there. They can feel free to get in touch with me there. They can also email if they just feel like directly emailing me anytime at Aaron, AARON, at activatebiz, that's biz.com, Aaron at activatebiz.com.
do you have also, I don't know if I've ever seen it. Do you have a uh, a blog or a mailing that you send out on a regular basis?
I do. If you go to my website, there is a spot on the events tab to join the list. As there should be. And I send out just in fact just a few days ago, I sent out a newsletter with some marketing tips for small business and nonprofit, and invites to a whole bunch of free seminars and webinars.
And the last thing I want to mention, and strongly recommend that if you do see Aaron speaking somewhere, please do try to get it because you're in for a treat. I'm saying this as a very big compliment. And specifically, I'm so excited. You mentioned to me you're going to be returning to the Asheville area in the upcoming future.
That's right. I work with the Small Business Center Network statewide, and the Chamber of Commerce Network. But it's a pleasure to be with my home team. So I'm going to be speaking at the AB Tech Small Business Center this fall, and the following spring. And I'm also doing regular webinars and trainings and courses through the Small Business Center at Blue Ridge Community College. I've got an event coming up at the Hendersonville Chamber, a seminar in July. So yeah, keep an eye out for all of those partners, the Small Business Center Network, the Chamber of Commerce, and you can of course join my list and you'll get email updates and invites to these free trainings.
Good advice, and I'll certainly look forward to, especially when you're going to be in the Asheville area with our mutual friend Dwayne Adams, who is going to be hosting you at the AV
That's
Tech
right.
Event there. It's just
Love Dwayne.
it's going to be join the crowd. It's going to be a great workshop, and it sounds again like a commercial, but I really mean it. Because I'm saying I've had the pleasure of attending maybe three of your seminars. I've hosted you maybe three times, and every time, Aaron, it's incredible. I come away with new ideas. So I know you're doing a great job because I'm taking copious notes. I'm saying, and my only problem is I can't read my notes, but they're
That's another issue.
right. You can't help me with that one. All right, Aaron, I'd like to thank you for being my guest on this edition of Blaine's World webcast.
Thank you,
I'd also
Blaine.
like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti. And I look forward to seeing you, really looking forward to seeing you again when you're in the Asheville area. That'll be great. Thanks, man.
Thanks so much. Great to be back with you, Blaine. Have a great day.
Likewise.